corn is really growing today. We mowed some hay yesterday. We got 24 acres off yesterday of second crop. Alfalfa, about half bloom. And we got to go down and get the hay conveyor and the hay tedder. And I got to get some machinery moved around here. And that's our plan today. And I got a little bit of help today. So we're going to put the conveyor up. And we got 3 loads of first crop that's still on the wagons that we're going to put up into the hay loft. We didn't do it during first crop because we didn't want to have to put the conveyor up any sooner than we needed to. Simply just ends up getting in the way longer during the season. So then that conveyor will stay up until maybe third crop is finished. So it's not there that long. We're down here at this other shed. We got the rake. We got a load of hay we're going to take home with that other baler. And we're going to get this hay conveyor out of here. So we got to finagle a few things around yet. Looks like we got a bird's nest up here, but let's see if anybody's home. We have nothing. I don't have to evict anybody, I guess. We're going to put this conveyor up. This is a hayrite. It comes in sections. I think you got like 6, 8, and I don't know if these are 10 or what these are, or 12. But anyway, so you can get it any length you need. This is a 60-footer, and I think this is the longest that they recommended for it. I have a 2-horse motor for it that I always remove in the fall, and I think the chain, I think that's a number 55. I think that's what they call it. And you got these hooks where the bales come against. And as long as they're on straight, this thing can really take them away. You can have them riding butt to butt and it will handle them. And we got to get way up there. We got this power wire. So usually what we do, we shut our power off by the pole when we set it up because we have to come against it to get it in place. So there's quite a strategic plan to get this in here. We have to get the wheel up onto this wall. And it just worked out that way. So one wheel actually sits in this little divot here, right here. There's actually a little pad of concrete underneath that. And then the other one we have propped up on blocks over here. But we've done this, so I gotta think back. I bought this conveyor back in '93, brand new. There was a conveyor here. It was an old, I think it was a little Giant, you know, quite wore out. It wasn't built as heavy and stuff, so we replaced that with this. And the hayloft is another little Giant, which is still there. We just replaced the chain, and that one doesn't have to work as hard up there, so it lasts better. So anyway, I gotta get my motor with the wheelbarrow, the belt, the cord, which our cord will plug in right here where our milkman plugs in. I have actually 2 motors, and for some reason we ended up getting a little water got inside this one somehow, and it wouldn't run. And we had a lot of hay to unload that day, so then we got this one, which I got out of a barn that got tore down a long time ago. And this is an open motor. It was running backwards, and we had to reverse it. And I think the start capacitor is out on it, but if I coast the belt a little bit, it does start itself. So anyway, I can use either one, but it was more of a backup plan, so that that worked out. I was going to throw it away, but I'm glad I kept it now. Got the hay in the barn, but the pulleys are pretty close the same. So anyway, it worked out. So that's a 2-horse motor. It's still the original belt, but I'll never leave the belt in there when we're done haying. I always take it out. And I'd like to take the motor off too. Sometimes I'll just leave it up under the roof there by the barn in between hay times. Like if it was supposed to rain for a while or something, or in between a crop. And this cord, it's a really nice heavy cord. It's longer than it needs to be, but we kind of figured our outlet out that fits our milkman's outlet and then the motor outlet. So I'm gonna go get a little bit of help. I'm gonna bring those blocks up here with the Bobcat. I got them down by the shed. We got that in place. So we use this high lift jack just to get the weight off so I can reposition the blocks so they appear to be more stable. We're gonna get this motor on the fall wheat. We oiled everything up in the fall. And I remember right, it's something about like that. And then there's a hole. There's a hole right there. You can eye up the belt with the belt pulley, with the motor pulley with the main pulley. That's what that hole is for. And then pretty much the weight of the motor gives it the tension, which is usually enough. And the best part about a belt, if things do get overloaded, they can slip a little. It kind of gives it a little bit of take some of the shock out of the system instead of having something break. So that's that. Get 1,000 bales in here in 2 to 3 hours, easy. And they come like that. You invented the slogan, working like a dog. The dog is always sleeping under the wagon or somewhere while we're working. Every time we're working, the dog is lying around. So working like a dog, that term has to be backward. She thinks there's raccoons in here because one time we unloaded some hay, we found raccoons in a wagon. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we got taught to pile hay. And you kind of look at this. Now this would be the edge of our bin. So we got 6 bins, and they're pretty much all the same size except the middle one's a little bigger, just because they had the door bigger. But what we do is we pile, for instance, our edge bales. You start, for instance, the long way, and every other layer you switch the other way. So your edge is always the opposite way of your inner bales. So now when this layer is completed, the next thing we do is start with a bale right here going the long way on the edge. And we go all the way along this edge until we get to our hay hole here. Our hay hole has got these boards on here and like uprights here and here to kind of keep everything from falling into the hay hole. Now, where I grew up, there was none of this in the barn. We didn't have no partitioning, so we had to be really good at piling to keep the bins separate, to keep them from tipping over. So, of course, in this bin, you got 3 walls, so you don't have to worry about piling them along the wall very fancy. But the edge you always do. You don't want it to tip over. So, even though we're going to fill all these bins up, in case we decide to take one or the other one down, the one alongside it stays standing. So you got this one going the long way, then you got this one going the opposite way, and then the one under that is the opposite way again. So your edge is always opposite from what your middle is. So basically what you're doing is you're intertwining everything. So everything kind of latches together. And then if the hay's really green and the bales aren't really solid, I always like to kind of push my edge inward as I start building. Once I get to 4 or 5 or 6 layers, then when I get to about 7, 8 layers, I start coming back out again. Because then the weight of the hay pushes that back out. So when you end up, you want it reasonably straight. I guess the big issue is get it in the barn without rain on it. And if it becomes a little bit of a mess, it's not the end of the world. It's just nicer getting stuff out. Otherwise, it's so tangled together. Every bale is pasted onto the next one when you try to take it back out. And the only way we'd make enough room in this barn is to pile it. I think this barn will hold about 12,000. So we always have quite a bit of reservoir, and this is the place for it. It keeps nice up here. It definitely got its venting. We got wood boards. We don't have tin on the side of this barn. So anyway, tomorrow we're going to hopefully we could do 1,000, and that'll be second crop. We may have this bin full, I would think. I hope. So maybe check in with you guys then.